This was my first glimpse of the return of America's one-time transatlantic legend, taken from the shores of Camden, New Jersey, with the morning sun beaming on her starboard side. 3 days earlier, she had arrived in Philadelphia under tow from the Ukraine, where her asbestos was removed. The plan was to rebuild the 1952-built 990-foot liner into a cruise ship or landlocked hotel and museum. 27 years had passed since she last sailed, and even with her missing boats and davits and her paintwork faded, she was still a magnificent sight. Remarkably, another 27 years have passed since this footage was taken, and the Big U is still either awaiting a new life as a hotel and museum in a yet-to-be-determined port, or the scrapper's torch. I drove my rental car back to the Philly side, scouring every waterfront vantage, all of which were partially obscured. The ship and her pier, the Packer Avenue Marine Terminal, were off limits to visitors. Nonetheless, I hovered near the guard gate and found a longshoreman willing to help. Thanks to Ship's Monthly magazine, my exploits to document long-forgotten vintage liners and cruise ships were well known to many ship fans, including my new friend. Otherwise, I'm pretty certain this could never happen today. As he drove us in, I filmed our approach to the Smith New York, the Dutch tug that brought the Big U back home, then donned a hard hat to try and blend in as I took hurried footage by her handsome cruiser spoon stern. The last and only prior time I had seen the ship was back in 1984, when I volunteered as a tour guide at Newport News, Virginia. Her interiors were about to be auctioned off, and the ship had just been opened up to the public. Unfortunately, this was long before I owned a video camera. I had to work fast in order to avoid us both getting caught, and in one more act of kindness, my longshoreman friend drove me to the bow, where I had a chance to get more up-close footage from behind a long row of shipping containers. And just one more shot to emphasize those oversized sampan funnels. A trademark of her designer, William Francis Gibbs, the tear-shaped structures were capped with a dynamic fin and dome, giving her a sense of speed and power, which she more than lived up to, capturing the bluer band for the fastest eastbound crossing on her maiden voyage at an average speed of 35.59 knots or 40.96 miles per hour. Back on the waterfront, I found a place where one can rent helicopters for city tours. I'm actually terrified of heights, and this was way over my budget, but sometimes you just have to push your limits. I negotiated a fair price and was soon aloft, making an aerial approach. At that time, the Big U was berthed with her bow under the Walt Whitman Bridge, which the pilot said he had to keep well above. I apologize for the vibrating footage, but this was a new dynamic as I tried to juggle my 3 cameras. It'll get better in a second. Of course, nowadays one could just fly a drone, but I had the thrill of actually being there. I've been very fortunate to have had many adventures in my decades of ship chasing. I plan to delve more into the history of America's largest, fastest, and most celebrated liner in a future video. I would return in 2 years to spend 2 days on board, exploring every nook from bow to stern, and then I'd return again in 2014. I hope there will be more visits in the future, especially if plans to rebuild her as a hotel and museum come through. Right now, she just needs a new berth. Those funnels are even more spectacular from this vantage, and the fine lines of that long bow. They just don't build ships like this anymore. And I'd wager that the pilot agreed, as he broke his own rules and flew back under the bridge, giving me more breathtaking views. All too soon, we were heading back towards downtown, past Pier 82 where the great ship now rests. On this day anyway, Philadelphia lived up to its reputation as a city of brotherly love, with kudos to all the kind-hearted longshoremen and helicopter pilots out there.
Welcome to Philly.